So I'm not going to talk much now because I'm first going to eat. Now I changed my diet because I'm also doing a cleanse now. This is some almond tofu. There's some avo with salt and oil. Some carrot. Olives are very good. Some tomato basil spread just from the shop. You know, these things are all from shops. When I have more time, more space, I will make my own things. This is grated carrots with oil. Yeah, I'll show you these things. I mean, I'm just gonna eat now. And this is green tea. Took me a long time to feel like this is a satisfying meal, so cleansing takes a lot of work, right? Cleansing takes a lot of work. Squatting. Wow. A friend made this knife from scratch. Quite nice. So it's good to eat food that one has to chew a lot. It doesn't have to be all of it. You know, like avocado, you don't really have to chew that a lot. It's like quite easy to just like mash it up and swallow it. But if you've ever eaten carrot, if you want to chew that into a paste, it takes ages. And that is one way how to train meditation and how to learn how to focus on just doing one thing. Right? So when I do this, I sit here and I chew and I just let my mind wander while I'm chewing. And then you have to make sure that it's a bad example now because I'm filming myself. Normally I wouldn't talk. You see a lot of people, they sit down and eat and then everybody's so busy talking because they cannot sit in silence. They hate silence because it makes them feel uneasy. Because when it's silent, they have to confront themselves and they don't like that. So I usually eat with myself alone because I know that if I sit there, everybody's gonna talk and then I would feel like talking as well. And so I just eat alone. Yeah, sure. I mean, when I would have my own family, I would just say, don't talk. Because I also can explain why, right? You see now how the squat is an active sitting position. Because now I can feel my feet. They're like getting really, really numb. So I do this. Keep the blood flowing. So I can practice to keep sitting like this. That's a challenge, right? Sometimes I go into my toes. Wow. Calves are really tight from jumping the other day. Yeah, I'm almost done eating. But actually, because, you know, I'm so used to overeating. It's hard to know where, you see, it's like where the boundary is. Wow. But now I want to sit like this. Wow. Like I'm really starting to quiet down on the inside. It's sometimes a little bit unnerving. If you're used to having all these thoughts in your head, when you clear them out, what is there? Right? Because to some people, even negative thoughts, like self-destructive thoughts, give them a form of stability. It's like holding on to these concepts, you know, I'm a terrible person, or you know, I'm something, I don't know what. And that brings me right to that topic of the tinnitus. Yeah. I'm not quite sure what to do with this now. Whew. I already feel quite full. It says never eat more. I'd rather put that in the fridge, but these two pieces I still want to eat. That's the problem. Now it's on the table, but I just have to learn this, right? So next time I'll just take a bit less. You know, maybe I'll just take 1 carrot and not 2. Because when you learn to cope with your fears more, you don't have to eat that much anymore. I'll just keep eating. I don't know if that's what I've been trained to do. Wow. Did you hear that crack? It was here. That's where the heart is. If you sit like this, when you eat, sit like this. Wow. It's really, really, really different. So always remember, one day at a time. I don't have to be a saint, yeah? If I still watched porn yesterday. Because that's phony. If you don't feel like being a saint, don't be a saint. No, the goal is to learn to deal with your toxicity so that you don't pass it on to others. So when you have anger, you try to keep that for yourself and then silently work with it. Everything that comes out of here should just be positive. So you also don't go walking around and you fart because you think it's funny. Because that means it's very disrespectful to fart when you live with other people. I mean, it's better to change your diet, and until then, okay, you know, fart in your room or something. But if you're farting a lot, then you should change your diet. Because diet is the reason you're farting. Right? We think it's normal that cows have diarrhea, right? It isn't. It's the way they're being kept. It's the way they live in all this anxiety. I mean, people think cows are stupid because they can't talk, but you can see this kind of madness in a cow's eyes. It's the same madness that I see in people that live in this kind of system. It's people that have been imprisoned for too long. And if you want to de-imprison yourself, you have to work hard. Because it's in your mind that it takes hold of you. And you can say, who takes hold of me there? Well, it's mostly you, isn't it? Because you wanted love, right? You wanted love. Not them. I mean, they wanted money. You wanted love. And so you did what you thought you had to do so that they would like you. And then you became something that was never you in the first place. You know, now I really don't like this. If you once have trouble with something, you're afraid that you're gonna have the same trouble again. Now I had trouble with this laptop. Yesterday I was streaming something and the stream kind of stopped. And now I'm afraid that I'm just sitting here recording something, so maybe I should just stop doing live streaming session. You know, the way this should happen is that I sit here and I simply trust, right? I trust that if it's meant to be recorded, it's gonna be recorded. You know, I like going live once in a while because it's more direct. But I could also do these sessions and simply record them and then post it. And I think I like that actually a lot better. Because being live, I don't think people have to see anyone live. But in a way I also like it. Just have to say in between something. And that's the problem when you talk, right? When you talk while eating. You constantly think of something you could say. Why? Why can't I just eat? I mean, this is now as uncomfortable to me as eating with other people. I just want to eat in silence. But as soon as there's somebody else and that person feels like they want to talk, now I feel like you want me to talk, but there's probably nobody out there watching this anyway, so what's the point? I mean, what's the point of talking at all when you're eating? Because now I'm supposed to be chewing. But when I'm talking, when I also want to talk while I'm eating, I'm gonna chew really fast because, I just want to say something. Well, can't you just eat? And then say it afterwards? Or just keep it to yourself and write a book about it or something? People are so addicted to speaking because it gives them security. When they're amongst other people, they always have to talk. And if you don't talk to people, or if people don't talk, everybody's like, oh my God, I don't know where I stand. Nobody's talking. Are we still having a good time? Am I still allowed to be happy? This is how people are. It's really annoying. And that's why I like to stay away from a lot of people at certain times, right? Because they're just too complicated. You just relax, man. You don't have to talk at all. If you want to talk, talk. But don't expect me to say something to that. Wow, a lot of food, eh? Way too much. Way too much. But when you're like me and you're used to eating a lot, right? I mean, I rather eat until I'm full. And then I'm satisfied. Because if I don't eat until I'm full, then I'm going to want to keep eating. Yesterday, for some reason, I thought I was fasting now, right? I thought I was fasting for 3 weeks or something, right? I thought, I'm never going to eat again. And then I was fasting, but I did drink coffee still. And I also made some kind of, coconut milk with hot water. And then I put sugar in and cinnamon. And then I have vanilla sugar. Cinnamon and cardamom. And then I drank that and also a coffee with sugar. And no, cardamom was only in the coffee. But there was cinnamon and nutmeg in the coconut milk. So I drank that, and I was drinking fluids, or living off on fluids. And then at one point my mother came and she said that she had cooked rice with vegetables. And then I had the feeling, for some reason, oh yeah, I'm gonna eat that. And then I went and I ate it, and it was a really huge plate, like a huge plate. And afterwards I was so hungry still, and I thought, what am I gonna eat now? Somehow I want something sweet now. And that was a bit strange because I thought I was fasting, but I also realized, that's like kind of the Zen mentality, right? If you feel like eating, you eat. And that's what I've been doing all my life, and somehow it got me to the point here, right? I'm just doing everything that I want to do until I no longer want to do it, right? So I've eaten a lot of stuff. I've changed that, right? So I have the feeling I don't really want to eat eggs anymore. It's just like, it's mass production. Yeah, sure. And also milk, right? I just can't ignore the fact anymore that milk belongs to children. So who am I to steal milk from a child? To take the mother and deny her the right to feed her child? Because do you realize the bond between mother and child when the mother is suckling the child? That's a lot of pleasure between them. There's an actual exchange. But if you just give, let machines suck out the milk from the cow while it's just standing in the same place the whole day, it's not the same thing. It's like masturbation. While suckling a child is a little bit like sex, right? It's an exchange of energy, while masturbation is just selfish. Now you're kind of forcing the cow to be selfish, and you're drinking it yourself. It's like, this is disgusting. And then you take her child, if it's a male, you grow it to be big and strong, and then you slaughter it and hack it to bits and mash it up and mix it with other cows and mash that up as well. And then you take, if it's a daughter, you raise her to have the same fate as her. And it's just slavery. I mean, that's even worse than what the Nazis did. Because at least the Nazis, they just killed them. No, actually, they also forced them to work, right? Yes, so it's just the same thing, really. It's the same thing. It's disgusting. It makes you think like what they did in World War II was just a test run. And they tested with people just to see how far they can go. It's still happening. It's still happening, man. This ain't over. Trust me when I say that. They just started. They're just finding new ways. There's some kind of agenda. So yeah, I have to be clear in my mind is what I'm saying. Right, I have to be clear. So I do a lot of cleansing. I watch my thoughts. I want to know what's going on. Also in the people that I live with. I want to see if somebody's struggling. So I can go there and say, hey, what's going on? I mean, I know what's going on, but they don't. So I don't have to ask them. I just have to go there and tell them, maybe you should do something different now. Maybe you should do some cleansing. Because you look really, really dark. Your aura is, you're not radiating anything. And I see these things. So I react to it, right? And the topic is still unfolding, by the way. You just have to be a little bit patient. Because if you want to know what I have to say, you have to wait for it. Okay, I want to eat this. Oh. Sometimes I don't know. I just want to keep sitting. Sometimes it's better to just sit. Because I'm working a lot already. And I stand when I work, right? So if I don't have the strength to stand, then I sit. But my laptop stays up there. I just made sure of that now. My first juggling ball. Filled with rice. So I need 3, and then I'm gonna have 5. Sometimes I just want to eat, eat, eat. But when you're hungry, then eat. But watch what you're eating. I just want to try this. Just 1 spoon. Wow. And I haven't eaten this kind of stuff in a while. It's just eating pancakes all the time. Alright. Just to show you. Yeah, I can smile, I know that. But I'm not here to really please you all, right? No, the reason I'm here is because I'm gonna tell humanity, or I'm telling humanity, that something has to change, right? And that's usually people that have a tinnitus. So I'm getting into the topic, and it might even connect to things I have said already. Yeah, I mean, there's all kind of speculation about what a tinnitus is, but you have to understand what these speculations are based on. All right? These speculations are based on people who observe others that have a tinnitus, and then they think about the body as a physical thing, and then they come up with ideas. But these are just theories, right? And then they give you solutions, and all kinds of stuff. I have a tinnitus sometimes. I have a beeping sound in my ear. Usually it's my left ear. Not so much my right ear. It's interesting. Why? Well, I believe the left side is the female side. And I would connect that to the hearing of more like your female side. What is it trying to tell you? Because, you know, there's like energy piling up, right? Because you're trying to not hear something, or you're unable to not hear something. So let's say you've been eating meat for already 10 years, or let's say for 25 years, or maybe for 40 years. And every time you eat meat and you sit there, suddenly it's like beep. Yeah, what could that mean? It's a very obvious thing what that could mean, right? It's like, stop doing this, man. You don't want to eat meat. This is bad for you. No, but I want to eat meat. You see, that's like this little stupid child that is afraid of letting go of control. So you sit there, it's like beep, every time you eat meat. But the problem is because you resist paying attention because you don't want to take responsibility for your life. You then go to a doctor. And because the doctor isn't you and has no chance to observe you when you live your life, you will go to the doctor and you will say, yeah, doctor, all this time, very often I have this beeping sound in my ear and it's driving me crazy. And then the doctor says, oh yeah, that's really bad. Maybe we should run some tests. It's like, ting, 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 oh yeah, we're gonna get some money from the insurance. Because they don't have an interest to make you whole. They just like you sick. You get it? They like you sick because that's how they make money of you. They make no money at all with somebody like me. They make no money with me because I simply pay attention to what's happening, how I feel, and then I draw conclusions. So if my back is aching, I find a way to heal that, and I have. Right? Started stretching more, started working out more, took responsibility. I've been ignoring it for some time, but I always try to find a way. Now I have a beeping sound. It's like, stick with the topic. We're not talking about backs now. My beeping sound is telling me. Sometimes I was sitting here watching a movie and suddenly it's like beep, and then damn it! This is how I often react to it. It's like, man, I just wanted to relax, right? I thought I could relax now. And then the beeping says, there's no time to relax. Work, do something, go and post that image, right? Go and write an email. But sometimes, I can watch a movie for some time. And then my feeling comes and says already, stop watching this movie now. You've had enough time watching movies. Now it's time to take responsibility and, keep sharing whatever you can. Keep working because this is your job. So yeah, if I'm honest to you, I wouldn't really like sitting here right now. A part of me really hates it. But you see, at one point you realize, if you experience oneness, if you have some kind of empathic heart, right? If you open your heart, what does that mean? It's not about you anymore, right? It's not just about you anymore. So yeah, maybe I don't want to make a recording. Maybe I don't feel like talking. Maybe I don't feel like sharing what I have to say. Well, then I make sure that I will. Because what's stopping me from sharing, right? Because I'm just talking, right? I don't have to whisper to you. If you don't like the way I talk, then find another teacher, because this is the way I talk, right? Because this is how truth sounds. It's direct, and it's to the point. It's like earnest, and there's a certain strength to it, because you mean what you're saying. And maybe people have been watching too many movies, because these people have no idea what they're even saying. They just repeat something that's been written down in a script. And there's no meaning to it, because there's no feeling connected to the words that they're saying. Because what they're saying is just, it's an act. And everybody's watching these liars. And they're getting paid for it. Yeah? And everybody's worshipping them. Like they're really great people because they're the best liars of all of us, you know? Oh, they can pretend so well. They can pretend so well to be, you know, something that they're not. Let's give them a lot of money. This is how the system is built. The best liar gets the Golden Globe, right? The best liar gets the Oscar. I mean, that's just what you have to understand. So if you've been learning from liars all your life, I mean, it's quite easy to become a liar yourself because you don't even know what's truth anymore. When I walk around, I want to talk to people and I go to them and I say something to them. You know, I speak the truth. I go to them and I say, you have to change the way you live because it's making you sick. And then they're trying to argue with that because, you know, I'm tuned to truth, but they are tuned to the lie, which means they're always running away from truth, which means if you go to them and you say, change your diet because you just run around the house and you're just farting all the time, and they say, I don't know what you mean. You're just like, whoop. Oh yeah, truth just slipped past me. You know, that can't touch me because I'm lying. Yeah, but truth is always there. Yeah, and if you don't want to get it from me, then you're gonna get it from your gut cancer one day. And then I'm gonna come around the corner and I'm gonna say, I told you so, my friend. But then, you know, life's gonna say, get off your high horse, you prick. You know, some people just can't do it any better. You know, there was a time when I really thought that movie, The Matrix, whoa, great movie, really awesome acting and stuff. Yeah, maybe. But what is acting? What is acting? It's putting up a show. I'm not putting up a show. You know, I'm just sitting here, exactly the way I am, in the room where I live. I don't make it especially clean because I'm making a recording here. This room is the way I feel. And that's why when I talk here, then I talk the way I feel. And I say what I say, and I make myself heard. And when I talk like this to people, they say, oh, you're talking too loud. Because they need always this kind of silence. So it's very also a challenge to keep speaking truth. Because liars always whisper. And liars need a script to read from, which says something about politicians. You know, why do they have to make sure that they know what they have to say, right? It means that you're clinging. Because if you're talking from a place of truth, oh my God, you know, if I say this, they're gonna realize I'm lying to them. Yeah, it's so bad. It's really, really bad. So if you hear somebody talking that says a lot, that means they're thinking a lot about what they're saying. And what that means is that they're constantly breaking their flow because they have to check if they still say, you know, what places them in the right position. You see, sometimes I'm also clinging. But I'm trying to avoid that, right? And when I'm in flow, I'm in flow. And then I'm going. So I also cannot claim that I'm always honest to myself. You know, I have moments where I feel like I'm lying, but it's very hard to catch myself doing so. Did I have to eat now? I thought I was fasting. But then I was sitting there and I felt like, you know, I was trying to envision what I'm going to do. What am I going to do? I thought at 4 I have to do a talk. I thought, whew. I mean, when I feel like this, I'm supposed there and talk for an hour about something like heavy topics? Oh. And I thought, nah, because, you know, fasting is more for going inwards. If you really eat nothing for a while and you just drink, whatever, this is more like for going inwards. You really go inwards. But if you eat, it's more like going outwards. But of course you can train also to go outwards when you fast, I think. But it's better when you fast. You don't feel like talking so much. You don't really feel like engaging with people. You just want to be by yourself. That's why fasting is a great practice. But you also have to make sure that people let you fast and that you know how to set up boundaries. So the question is, maybe you have a tinnitus, or maybe sometimes you just have a beeping in your ear and it's driving you insane. Yeah, sure, man. It's driving you insane because you're constantly screwing yourself over by denying yourself what you actually want or need. Because often what we actually want is actually also what we need. And often I was making weird decisions because I had trouble to know what I want. So now I know what I want, I kind of want to heal, right? So I have to make certain choices, right? I have to make certain choices. I have to start listening. And that's why I sit a lot with myself and I listen into myself. Yeah. So I clean my mind. And that's what then meditation also is doing for you. It's basically, there's a lot of voices, right? I don't know where these voices come from. Maybe I do, right? But to explain that to you is maybe a little complicated, right? It might be, you can see that from so many different perspectives, right? But mostly I believe that, we can see us humans a bit like bees in a hive. And we are all kind of connected. And when you have a deep connection with another human being, then it might be that you actually, you have thoughts inside yourself, but it's not your thoughts, it's the thoughts of the other person. Now, instead of getting angry at the person, you just figure out who that person is that you're hearing inside of you, and maybe it is you after all, but maybe it's also somebody else. And when you hear somebody else crying for help inside of you, then it's better to listen and to figure out who that is, because maybe you can call somebody or send them an email or just something friendly. Now, it's very hard to do these kinds of things. It's very hard to do these kinds of things. And the reason I say that is because there are so many voices for a while. And probably a lot of them are at first your own. See, it's complicated for me to explain this because all I know is that I simply react to feelings, right? Like, see, now I just saw a movement and something moving. It's like, what was that? Yeah, so you can see humanity as a kind of a tree, right? Or a flower. And in order to keep that flower alive, you have to water it. But each and every one of us, we are also flowers. And that means we have to water ourselves as well. So if you stop watering yourself and you start dying already before your time, so the question is, what are you missing? And then it's the time to pay attention. You can hear this now and you can say, oh, that's bullshit. Science has proven that a tinnitus is blah. I don't care what science has proven, because science is just fishing for scraps. They have no idea what's going on. Because science has no holistic approach. Science in itself is separated, right? It's like, I'm a scientist in this, and I'm a scientist in this. When somebody comes along and they say, I'm a holistic scientist like Rupert Sheldrake, people say, that's not real science. You're talking about energy. That makes no sense. You see, science is just a bunch of assholes picking on each other that just want to do the right thing or something. But nobody ever does the right thing, ever, I think. So the thing is, the only thing you can do is to look at how you feel emotionally and to just blend out everyone else for a while. I mean, I'm not saying you have to just cut yourself off from everyone, right? I'm not saying you have to cut yourself off from everyone all the time. What I'm saying is, you just stop asking for opinions and stuff. If you have a problem, you sit with that. you feel a certain way. And instead of asking people that actually feel the same, but they just don't want to confront it, because what can you get out of a person that doesn't know how to, if somebody doesn't have your problem, how can they help you to solve it? Because they're not you and they don't have your experiences. They may have similar experiences, but not yours specifically. So usually how I do it, when I constantly hear a beeping sound, I'm just opening my ears. Like this. And then I'm focusing on something. And I open my mind and my heart. And that's what you might call meditation, because in the meditative state, you open yourself up to everything. Because that's what meditation is about. It's like opening the heart, right? So that messages can come into you. You want to be open so that stuff can come in. So good stuff comes in, bad stuff comes out. You can also open yourself to fear. But that's a very unbalanced way of opening yourself. Or, yeah, you might say. But there's a reason, of course, why we have all these people, like, right? I mean, greedy people in general, like Elon Musk was just a really greedy asshole. I mean, it's just, I can let it stand like this because that's just the truth. I mean, he's standing on top and he says, I'm Elon Musk. I'm the richest man alive. Yeah? Rich in terms of what? Rich in terms of what? I mean, you're exploiting the earth to make a dime out of it. Rich in terms of what? And that's the role model. It's just a liar. He's acting like he wants to save the planet. But he's openly doing the exact opposite. But nobody sees that. And that's what you learn as a child already. Because you grow up, you see your parents, you see actors, and you think this is how I have to be, right? I have to make no sense whatsoever. I just have to be a complete idiot and do always the opposite of what I'm saying. Because this is what people do. They come and they say these things like, yeah, like really, they sound like really pompous. We gotta do this and and then they turn around and do something else. So the question is why? That's what I don't really get. That's what I have thought about this a lot. Why do people constantly lie to themselves? I don't know. Right, there were times when I was younger and I just felt shit about myself. I just felt shit. I was unhappy. I felt shit. I felt shit. I felt shit. I felt shit. And then I went to people and I talked to them about it, and then they said, maybe I was shy and I didn't feel like approaching people. And then I went to them and I said, yeah, but I don't know how to talk with girls, or something like this. And then they would say, but you look so good. And then for a while I was building this self-image of, I'm really sexy. And then I walked around and I thought, I'm really sexy. And then I had this moment where somebody said to me, oh yeah, this guy has the sexiest butt I have ever seen. And then for a while I knew how it is like to walk around and to identify yourself with your butt. You see a lot of women that walk and they like boom, 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 shake their butt left and right. You know what that means? They've just become their butt because people told them, oh, you have a sexy butt. They start identifying with it because it's the one positive thing, it's the one compliment people give them. You have a sexy butt. Oh, thank you. Ah, ha, 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 ha. It's so stupid because I'm not my butt. When I'm not my thoughts, I'm also not my butt. So why would you walk around and identify with your butt? I mean, just imagine, you just became your ass. And that's when people then do all this twerking like, oh yeah, look at my butt. They just became that. It's just about that exactly. They identify with their butt. And then they make money with it. So people give them money and watch their videos because they worship butts. They don't worship the self. They don't worship nature. They don't worship what's inside. No, they worship butts and tits. It's like, oh wow, sexy tits. You talk to a woman. Can you talk to a woman that would stand in front of you naked and not see her body, but just look her in the eyes and see the rest. That's a challenge. But of course, I mean, breasts are really beautiful. But it's not, you know, it's not what you want, because if you would just have a pair of breasts lying around, you know, what would you do with it? Because what you like is what belongs to the breasts. But if you would just have an empty shell, a body lying around, then what would you do with it? I mean, that would be very boring as well. Because what we like in people is what's on the inside. And that's what you have to find out for yourself, what is on your inside. I mean, if I would see you, I could probably see what's on your inside, right? I could probably see it. Oh yeah, that's on her inside, or that's on his inside. I can see the essence of things. But I can see the essence of things because I am refusing, constantly refusing to get drawn into this materialistic worship nonsense. Because the essence of things allows me to be empathic, to walk around and see the tree as a living being, and to see a dog as a living being, and to see as other people as living beings. But if I walk around and I see everything just as material objects, there's no empathy involved, there's no love involved. But if I see everything as something alive that I treat with respect, right, there's a lot of love in here. Took a lot of time to do this, right? The human takes a lot of time to grow, and so do souls. But this is just something that's on the outside. And so I found, I can't remember if I used to have a tinnitus. I don't think it was ever that bad. But what I realized is that I was listening to a lot of really loud music. And often the only way to get away from these really, really loud thoughts I was actually hearing, you know, was to just hammer myself with really loud music. Because I didn't want to hear them. But there comes a point where you realize, well, I cannot drown them out anymore. I have to start listening. So how do you start listening? How do you start listening? Well, by sitting down and paying attention, and then you have to listen to each voice one by one, yeah? You listen to each voice one by one. And then you're trying to figure out what that voice is trying to tell you, okay? And it gets to the point where you know this is me that has a need that I need to fulfill, and this is somebody else's need. You know, this is my need and I'm fulfilling that. And when I realize somebody else has a need, but they don't know how to fulfill it, but I know, then I can give them something. And this is then also the law of attraction, right? Because if you are trapped in this, you know, I'm suffering, I'm an asshole, I'm a piece of shit, then that's also the kind of thoughts you attract and the kind of people that have these thoughts. And when you cleanse yourself a little and you quiet down, the people who you are then going to attract are people who actually want to change, that actually want and need help. Because some people, they don't want help because they think they are better than asking for help. Now, I am, on the other hand, I often have asked for help already. I said, I need help now. Because I don't know, you know, I'm at the wit's end, and I just kept asking for help, and I kept asking for help until something came up in me. And often it wasn't really people that helped me. Sometimes it was, but it was, in the end, it was always myself. But, you know, I asked for help and help came. Help came in an idea, in a vision, in a spark of light. Oh, wow. So when you're constantly hearing this beeping sound, you know, instead of just listening to music or just keeping ignoring it or just doing like, or going to doctors, what you can do is you just try to listen. It's actually quite fun. That's how I feel. It's actually quite fun to listen to these voices and to figure out what they mean, or to the beeping and to see, you see, now something's coming up. Something about the Matrix. It says, see how it all connects, right? Listen to what your heart says. And then get going. You see, I can just listen to what wants to come out and then I simply repeat that. You know, sometimes it's like, I don't really understand what's trying to come through. Sometimes it's a message, I don't even know where it's coming from. Found in the dark. Found in the dark are the things. You see, now I'm not sure. Is it I cannot see or I try to hide? Oh, and now I know I try to hide. Found in the dark. Found in the dark are the things I try to hide. If you listen to the voice, you remembered how to fight. You see, this is how I write poems. I simply listen, and now this beeping sound is just starting to annoy me. And why? Why is it starting to annoy me? Because I want to be in charge. You know, I don't know who wants to talk now. So I feel like I want to be in charge, right? I want to be in charge. You know, I want to say what I want to say. You know, if somebody else wants to speak in here, then they have to get their own platform and say these things. You see, and I have a feeling where this is coming from. Because, you know, some people, they have this inner wish to express themselves, but they lack the courage. Maybe you have the wish to express yourself in English, but you lack the courage. Maybe you have the inner wish to make music, but you lack the courage. And maybe you have the inner wish to, I don't know, you know, people who watch a lot of movies, they, you know, what kind of movies are you watching? Because that says a lot about what you actually want in your life. And that's how I figure these things out. You know, I've said already, I rarely read any books. And that's just how I like to do it, because I have to see it to know how I feel about it. Reading, to me, I don't like reading so much. I'm an observer. I don't like reading. You know, I like to observe. So when I sit here alone and I do this, the Rubik's Cube. Yeah, I don't do it like this. You know, that's how some people play. No, I sit here in silence and then I scramble it up. This is like one of my spiritual, you know, time to focus and to see what wants to come out. And then I sit here and then I just start doing it. You see, this is now something that comes up because I sit here, I quiet down. I constantly have this stupid beeping sound, and I also know why now. Because I refuse to do breath work. I just ate something, but I could have done breathing exercises. But I don't want to do it because it's effort. But it's stupid because I actually deny myself spiritual growth. I deny myself to fast. But I'm not so sure if that's really the solution. Maybe I'm just supposed to tell you that you're supposed to do breath work, right? You know, I can just push it onto somebody else, right? I can just push it onto somebody else. You know, some people are like this as well. And that's sometimes maybe you have a beeping in your ear because the voice is trying to tell you, or you are trying to tell yourself, stop doing things that other people want to do themselves. And I started to learn that. Now when somebody comes to me and they say, well, you could go out with the dog more. And then you think, well, is that my job? Or did you say to your daughter that you're going to take care of the dog? Because I sure didn't say that. And now you want me to help. And you just think I'm supposed to do that. And then I say, well, do it yourself. Because you're the one that has to do it. But you're trying to push it onto me. Right? Sometimes people want to do something and then they want you to help. You know, it's like, I told you I live with my parents. And there was a time when my father wanted to paint the whole house. And he didn't want to pay the money because it was too expensive. Yeah, that's also understandable. Because if you can do it yourself, then do it yourself. Right? You know, if you can crochet, you know, everybody can crochet. So why would you not do it, right? You know, everybody can cook. So why would you not do it? Because you're too lazy, right? Instead, you eat shit from other people. Yeah, so there was a time when I was struggling a lot and I was just focused on doing my own thing, which I'm still. Because this is more important to me than painting a house. And plus, my father wanted to paint the house. And he tried to suck me into this. And I simply said, not my job. And there was this construct around the house, right, with planks and bars and stuff, so that, you know, you can walk around the house and you can paint it. And I'm living here. And I don't pay money. So he thinks, you know, I'm supposed to do things that he wants me to do because he earns the money in this house. But that doesn't mean I have to do everything you say, right? It's like the moment when you start standing up to your father, it's quite an interesting sensation. And what happened was, I could feel how he was like growling at me from the darkness of his own mind. And when I was in the kitchen or something, I could literally feel his expectation of me, you know, that he wanted me to help him, leaking into the room and trying to leak into myself so that it would form into my own wish. But it wasn't my wish, because I realized, well, you're the one that wants to paint the house. Now why do I have to help you with that? Simply because, you know, you want to push the responsibility, you want to have it easier. But it's not easy to paint the house, but if you want to do it, then do it. So it's also not easy to find enlightenment or something, right? But if you want to do it, then do it. So to me, it's certainly not easy to not fast, because I want to fast. I really have this real wish to just go into a cave, to just retreat into myself and just be like, I'm just gonna pretend everything's fine. But I also realize if I start fasting now too much, I don't feel like talking. And to me, it's important that I sit here and talk about topics, because that's my job, right? That's what I want to do. So I eat, I work. You see, that's the whole thing, I feel. How it works, right? You live in this world. You either contribute to it, and you find out what you want to do, or what your mission is based on your true hidden potential that other people always want to drown away, and that you let them drown away. You allow them to suck you away from what you actually want to do. And there came a time where I said, this is my mission and I'm taking responsibility for it, because I have certain abilities. You know, I can write books like nobody I know. I don't know anybody who writes books like me, who can just transform emotions into words like that, who can transform an image into, you know, emotions into an image like that. And that's what I do. My mind just works in such a way. And my mind is quite clean, right? If I see a woman, I don't think of breasts. I see the woman. I see who is behind the face. I see that there's a soul inside and that this soul is suffering. And then I can go to that woman and say, have you thought about doing some cleansing? Have you thought about to stop eating gluten? Have you thought about changing your diet? Have you thought about, stopping with taking the pill? Have you thought about, having no casual sex anymore? So, to cleanse yourself. It took me now 1.5 years to cleanse myself from all the unprotected sex I had with random women. So that I'm ready to be with my wife, right? It took me 1.5 years to cleanse myself from all this shit that I picked up from having sex with other women. And it doesn't matter if you use a condom. It doesn't matter at all. Because having sex is supposed to be for healing and for a family to grow from. Right? You plant the seed, and from that the forest can grow. And the forest can be a family, right? So what's the point of having sex if you don't want to have a family? Then just don't have sex, man. That's just how it is. And so yeah, to me what I realized was that there was a time where I couldn't sit down and meditate and feel peaceful while doing it. I see a lot of people who try doing that anyway. I'm a little more honest to myself. So I never had the feeling, when I don't feel like sitting down and being quiet and feeling happy about it, well, then I don't do that. But then I felt like doing something else. So what did I feel like doing? Maybe I felt like doing crochet. Maybe I felt like doing this here. Sometimes I meditated. Sometimes I woke up at 4 in the morning, opened my eyes. And I woke up with the feeling you have to meditate now for 1 hour. Alright, and I did that. I meditated for 1 hour. I have no idea why, I don't know what happened. I just set an alarm, a timer for 1 hour, and I simply meditated. And then, sure, why not do it once in a while? You just set yourself a timer for 1 hour, and then you simply sit there and see what's gonna happen. You turn your phone on flight mode or something, right? So that nobody can disturb you, and sometimes it's better to do it at night. Right? So if you have nothing better to do than watching movies, then you can also meditate, right? So if you spend your nights playing computer games, then you can also meditate. If you spend your evenings chatting with people on WhatsApp, yeah, or flipping through Instagram pages, well, then you can also meditate, right? And then you can also do push-ups or breath holds. Yeah, then you can also start practicing yoga or do something like this. Yeah, or start walking around on all fours like an animal. And even if it's just 5 minutes per day, I mean, that's already changing yourself. Because you start replacing, you sit down every night and you watch a movie and you get a beep, just a really fine beeping sound. Sometimes it's louder and sometimes it's really fine. So what are you going to do about that? Oh, doctor, I have a problem. Oh, yeah, you have a problem. Let me see. You need surgery. That's a tumor. Let's do an MRT. Yeah, and then you go do an MRT and they see something in there. Have you ever thought about it? That what they see in there is just energy? It's possible. I'm just suggesting things here. I'm not claiming that I'm, your new health official. I don't want to make it easy for them to ban me. But what I'm saying is that there are different ways of seeing the world. So if I have a problem, I sit with it and I just solve it because I simply look at what is going on. And that then means I can take care of myself. And so I don't have to go to doctors. Of course, right? If people hear that, they say, well, that's a very irresponsible thing to say. Well, I'm not telling anybody else to not go to doctors. I just say, try to figure out what you need by yourself first. Maybe you can help yourself instead of running to other people always. And that was also the one thing. I was always, if I had a problem, I went to someone, I asked them a question and they gave me advice. And then I did that and it turned out to be completely stupid advice. Because they gave me advice that they thought sounded good, but actually they had no idea because they never did these things. So now I don't know why I still hear these people. Maybe it's just truth coming in. And it's the frequency, right? It's the frequency of truth. Ah! So the louder the tinnitus gets, the more truth builds up that you have to work with. And with me, it's a very fine beeping sound. But I also make sure that I'm mostly quiet, right? I'm mostly quiet. I don't speak a lot unless I'm doing recording. What else is there? So I also want to make sure that I hear these secret messages. But yeah, sure, I mean, I get it. Maybe you're really miserable. You know, you're in bad shape, you're lazy. All you have in your life is watching movies and eating pizza. And you're sitting around, it's like, beep. And it's driving you nuts, and then your children are, you know, are very demanding, and your wife or husband is very demanding, and you have to work a job. Yeah, and then you get home and you don't want to think about, no, I don't want to think about it. Why not? Why are people like this? I don't want to think about it. Leave me alone. Why are people like this? Because everybody's like this. And that's what I mean with lies. You know, truth always comes through. Yeah. But lies, what do they really do for you? It's just a fabrication. It's not the truth. You know, it's a very feeble construct. Lies. They have no ground. They have no footing. Lies are very, very, it's an empty shell. And that's when I look at stuff like, you know, I was just looking at the movie The Matrix, and the first time now that I watched it, I've watched it many times, and every time I got sucked into the lie. You know, the illusion that they're creating, that what's happening there is real. And now I watched it, and in every sequence I saw the act. I saw the act that was happening, and I realized that what they're saying in there has no meaning at all. Maybe the words in itself carry some kind of wisdom, but the people who are saying it have no idea what they're actually saying. Because if they would know what they're saying, then they wouldn't be acting. Because only people who need directions are actors, right? Because they don't know what to say, so they become actors so that somebody else can tell them what to say. So the person who makes the movie maybe has some kind of deeper understanding, but not really. And do you know why? That's the interesting part. Because I have no intention of making movie scripts or of making, you know, doing something that people turn into a movie. And why is that? Because I stand on my own 2 feet. I myself, I'm already enough. Everything I want to say, I can say myself. You know what a director does? He wants to say something, but he lacks the courage. So he writes a script, and when he likes the script, he hires people with money, so he buys people that can act out what he wants to say. So he needs hundreds of people to produce a movie to say what he wants to say, which means he is lacking, I don't know, self-love and courage. Because it takes courage to say what you want to say and say it. I mean, it's an easy way out if I write a book and then I go to someone and say, can you read that for me? Easy way out, man. Read it yourself. Because it's your words. Why do you want somebody else to read it? And that's why when you know, you can train this. I have trained it. I have trained to understand how liars talk, how liars look like, how liars move. And so I wanted to know how actually the lie looks like. And now my feet are starting to become pins and needles, so I just start sitting like this. And sometimes I put a blanket under my butt, just a bit. And then it's easier to sit. Oh wow, yeah. Sure. And so the thing is, all right, now I want to feel comfortable. Yeah. I want to feel comfortable. I'm just gonna put on socks now. Sometimes I just feel cold. And it also has something to do with the heart. So today, that's also where breath work comes in, right? But today I would also like, because this was a cold meal. This was a cold meal. Sometimes you need something hot. So I realize that, right? Because I pay attention to what I need. I pay attention to what I need. And I feel like today what I need still to heal, yeah, and to feel emotionally good, so that I can sit here with a smile. You know, it's like milk rice, but not just any kind of milk rice. And I'm probably going to make it with sugar, because sometimes I just need something sweet. And let's just look at a recipe I have in a book. And it's a very precious book to me, because I bought it together with my wife. And it's called This is Ayurveda. That's not the book. But I think I also bought it with her. Nah, I'm not sure. Ah. This is called the Vedic cuisine. That's a good way to start. But it's German, so I have to translate this. So vegetarian, wow, I just see these foods, it's like, wow, I know why I love cooking. And this wasn't cooking, this was an easy, I love cooking so much. And this is a very good book. Here it says the Bhakti Vedanta Book Trust. Let's see if there's the English title. I'm not going to put it in the description. Adhirajadasa Vedic Cuisine. Here. The Hare Krishna Book of Vegetarian Cooking. In Germany, a lot of people think Hare Krishna is a person. But actually, I think it means praise Krishna or something. Because Krishna is a god, a form of deity that symbolizes life or something, right? We can look at it. So now I've told you how the book is called, right? Now I like to leave these. Wow, because there's also a lot of spiritual wisdom in here. And then it says, you know, vegetarianism. So basically the idea is kill no animal. You know, milk is alright. You can make your own cheese. But you can also make cheese with almond milk, I believe. Yeah, and then this is a very nice book. Wow, there's mouth-watering food in it. So if you want to learn to cook, there's probably a lot of things in here. But also what I have to say is that some of these things are very, very complicated to get by. And what I'm missing here a little, you know, if it comes to spices, they don't explain what it does. For example, here it says nutmeg, and I read in another book, which I don't have, anymore. It says nutmeg, it said in there, is an aphrodisiac. If you have problems with your sexual performance, you can eat nutmeg and sexual energy is starting to flow again, right? It's not just about the erection. You know, I use nutmeg to boost my creative flow. I use nutmeg or cardamom, for instance. Wow, black cardamom, man. Wow. Black cardamom is one of the best things. Yeah, it's hard to get, but it tastes a bit smoky. Alright, so I'm not gonna go into this. What I want to show you is a recipe for... This is the best book I know. I really want to cook. I want to cook with my sweet lady. Alright. It's that kind of milk rice, right? I have to find it first. Maybe it's called Gewürzreis, spiced rice or something, right? Gewürzreis 103. Wait. Puri. So, be serious about it. It's very important to take this serious because this is about emotional healing. I mean, when you are here watching this, then you have a problem. And that means you have to take this problem very serious. That means you have to take this problem very serious, alright? Like, there's no time to slack around anymore when you start hearing your heartbeat in your ear, or when you start hearing a beeping in your ear. That means there's no time to screw around anymore. You've used up all the time to screw around. And sure, then for a while you will be angry. But you know what that also means? You are starting to awaken. It's a beautiful process. Yeah, it hurts like hell. You know, it feels like being born. And being born is, you know, a lot of blood, a lot of like... Yeah, and then you have to learn to grow, and that takes a lot of time. So here's one. It's coconut rice. So it consists of rice, water, sugar, cardamom, like rasped coconuts, slightly roasted, and then pistachio or cashew nuts, raisins, and butter. And then there's this spiced rice, and it consists of, but that is without sugar, alright? So that's not the one, but that's okay. So I would make this one, but it doesn't have, it only uses water, and that to me would be a little bit too boring. So I'd probably use coconut milk or coconut cream to just give it a little more fat. Because normally milk rice, you make it with milk, right? But if you consider that milk has 3.5% fat usually, and coconut cream has about 20, I always check the ingredients so I know, right? I know what to substitute with what, I know what is in this kind of thing, right? I read what's inside of here so I know if I want to eat it or not. So if I eat an avocado, I know there's an avocado inside. It's very simple. If I buy avocado paste, then I don't know what they put in there. Sometimes they add really weird things. Can't even pronounce that. So yeah, one way to start if you have a beeping ear is probably with your diet. And to just start looking at, wait, what am I missing? What would I actually rather do than what I'm doing right now, right? And then I had moments where I was doing something, and then suddenly there came this moment where I realized, what am I doing? And I just dropped it and left. You know, that's what I had when I worked in the cinema. I got so angry of working there. And then I got to the point, I knew my shift was starting to end. And somebody was walking out, you know, the guy who actually always told me, you know, you can leave now. He left to go in the cinema and I just left and never came back. Yeah, once, because they said, you know, you still get some cash. All right, and I got the cash. But sometimes you just have to do things. You know, you feel like quitting, quit. Quit! And then see what's gonna happen. You know, if you do that, it's your own problem, right? It's your responsibility. You can't just quit, you know, if I tell you now, well, if you have a beeping sound in your ear, you should quit your job, right? I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you have a beeping sound in your ear and your feeling tells you you should probably quit your job, well then why aren't you quitting it? And also now I have some unfinished business, right? Well, I can leave that for later. It's like, you know, I have this movie, The Matrix, the second one. And I always watch a bit. You know, I go back to it, I watch a bit, and then I get annoyed of it, so I do something else. And then I go back to it, and that's how I engage with finding truth. Because it's not like, just because I see that all actors are liars, that I can't learn from movies anymore. I like, you know, movies as teachers. But I also realized, you know, when you start gathering insights from movies, you know, a whole movie is a lot to process. So I like to take it bit by bit, right? It's like my meals. You know, now I ate this, and later I'm going to make milk rice. And I'm already looking forward to it. It's like, oh wow, you know, I'm gonna eat sugar again. Woohoo! So, you know, you kind of spread it out a little. And you try to see, okay, you know, this is how I want to do it. And so like, now the first time I did it with this one, right? I just crocheted with my feeling. I had no instruction manual, but I have crocheted enough now that I realized this is going to work. So this is your goal with anything that you do in life, right? You want to get to the point where you can just do it like this. So maybe you listen to me and I'm giving you some ideas, but these ideas are just meant to get you going, right? To just start looking for something. To simply start looking for what do I actually want. You know, these ideas aren't meant to be your, oh, this is what I have to do. Oh man, and I don't know, it's just sitting there. Is it here because I want to eat this now? Because it just, my mind keeps wandering. Maybe I'm just using this to pleasure myself. Wow. You see, I'm a pleasure seeker. Wow. And that's what happens if you let your mind wander. Wander with an A also. You let it wander in a certain direction. You know, a lot of people, they're so fixed on, this is the kind of job I'm supposed to be doing. You know, this is how I have to look like. This is how I have to dress. This is when I have to wake up. You know, this is what I have to drink. This is how I have to look like. I'm just gonna look like everybody else. I hate life. It's the politicians, right? And why are politicians like this? Because they live amongst people who are all really anxious of being unmasked as liars. But at the same time, they just want to be the best liar of all of them. You know, they all want to be president who sits on top and says, I'm the president. And so, you know, that's the problem I have with people who like to debate, because they always like to be right. You know, I don't like to be right, I just have the problem that I am right most of the time. But I spend enough time looking at what feels right. And then I get to a conclusion because I've looked at it long enough, right? I've looked at my life long enough so that at a certain point I could say, oh, that's what's wrong in my life. You know, I'm watching too many movies, I'm eating too much food that makes me heavy and tired, you know, I'm always trying to please other people. Yeah, I eat too much. I sit in bad positions. You know, you sit in a chair. This is what your back is going to be like. You look at your phone. This is how people get pleasure from messages like bing. Ah! You send somebody a message and then you hear this bing of ah! This is an orgasm, my friend. You can have an orgasm by simply sitting here alone in your room, giving a speech to I don't know who, myself, and then just taking 1 spoon of Hanfaufstrich Paprika Basilikum. And then you take a spoon and you eat it and it's like, wah! But you realize I don't need anybody else for that. But I'm still a pleasure seeker. But I'm not running after it, you know, I'm looking for pleasure. Yeah? In all kinds of places, because I like pleasure. Pleasure is nice. But what is pleasure? And what forms of pleasure do you like? Like, do you like the pleasure of cleaning your ears like... Because if you get addicted to that feeling, you're gonna realize you're probably gonna screw up your ears. You know? So the right kind of pleasure, and one form of pleasure is just sitting in quiet meditation, but that takes a lot of time. It's not this instant pleasure. It's pleasure that takes a while. So if I want to know how to crochet, and I want to get pleasure out of crocheting something like this, because what I want is a ball to juggle with, right? That's my goal. I want a ball to juggle with. Now I have 1. You can't really juggle with 1 ball. You need at least 3. Even 2 balls, you know, are not for juggling. Yeah, I mean, you can juggle like this, but is this juggling? Maybe. Plus, I don't want to juggle with this because its purpose is to be a puzzle and not a ball to juggle. Yeah? So before I was also juggling with glass. But the problem is when that drops, it's gonna break and I have to clean that. Yeah, I could juggle with paper, but you know, I like to juggle with something which purpose it is to juggle with it. And now computers, yeah, and phones were actually designed for people to work with them. So writing chat messages and watching movies isn't really work unless you use it for work. So my computer is working, right? It's a working device. I use my phone to write poetry because that's my job. So I write poetry and then I sing it and then it's a song, right? So, you know, I use electronics for work and not so much for getting pleasure out of it anymore. You know, I like the finished product. So in a way, yeah, but it's a means to an end also, right? It's a means to end suffering and boredom maybe in the world. You know, that's what art is, right? Some people, they just do art, not because they actually want to, but because they think it makes them look good. So if, you know, your heart isn't really in it then, right? You're just doing it because, you know, I just want to look a bit better than everyone else, and that's why I make art. But if your heart isn't in it, then what's the point? I just want to do good. So the question is, you know, how much pleasure can you really get out of eating? And I realized the cost of eating as a method to get pleasure is too high. So I started also to crochet like this. So I also have to sit in a way that the light falls in a way that I can see what I'm doing. And then I learn to hold my shoulders up, because that trains my neck to sit straight so that I can be like this without always falling down. And it's working already because I've trained a lot. And I need this to be like that so I can train to sit in the meditative posture. But you will realize that in the beginning your back is going to be really screwed. So you realize how it suddenly starts to connect, right? You start having beeping sounds in your ear, which make you feel anxious and uneasy. And then you think, oh yeah, somebody said meditation is gonna help. And then you sit down and meditate, and maybe you just ate pizza before, and then you feel so heavy. But if you don't eat, you feel so hungry that you can't meditate. Well, then you can sit and meditate on the feeling of hunger. That's what I did, I think, yesterday. Or the day before yesterday. I was sitting at night and I was so hungry. And I was sitting there and then all these things came up, that I could still eat. You could eat this once more. It's like these times I went to Chinese all-you-can-eat. And I went there and I ate 3 plates with food, like full. I'm not a big guy, but for some reason I can eat a lot of food. I had 3 whole plates with food, and I realized that if I can't eat anymore, I just eat ice cream and then I can stuff in another plate. Why? I don't know. Yeah, but at one point, you're just gonna get heartburn. And you're just gonna... It's just like too much after a while. Your body can't take it anymore. And you realize, I actually want to be more light. I want to be more a lightful being. I don't want to be miserable all the time. Yeah, you start asking questions. If it gets really bad, well, then you have your reason to change. And with me, it got really bad. And so I changed. And I hated it. And now I like it. So I hated it that I had to change. But I only hated it because there was a lot of things that I had to change. So I just started bit by bit, right? I first started with a lot of habits. I introduced new habits, was very important. And I just let everything else slide for a while. I continued to masturbate, I continued to watch porn, I continued to eat large amounts of sugar and drink huge amounts of coffee. Yeah, and I continued to be a little bit miserable, but I did a lot of art. And then when I got used to doing art, and art actually became easy, and more like a habit, I suddenly realized that other things started to fall away, bit by bit, and other things started to come in addition. So now I've done a lot of art, I've done a lot of music, a lot of drawing, a lot of painting, I've transformed a lot of my emotions. I stopped watching porn, now I also stopped to masturbate. And how do I know that? Because I know. I stand a lot in front of my laptop, and the urge to watch porn is gone. The urge to watch other women is gone because I know which woman I want to be with. So the urge is gone. I sometimes still have this urge to touch myself, but now I know all I have to do is just clench the muscles down in my pelvic floor, and the energy starts to push upwards. So at a certain point you also realize if I keep masturbating, then I will feel too ashamed to actually be with my wife. So there's your reason right there, because I want love. I want to be in love. But in order to be in love, I have to fill myself with the things that bring me to love, which is the right kind of food, which is the right kind of thought. And in that sense, yes, there is a right and a wrong. Because if I just do things because everybody else does them, then it's just going to bring me further away from whatever my hearing tinnitus is trying to tell me. Because your tinnitus is trying to tell you there is something you don't want to hear, and people are very reluctant to hear it. I said to my mother earlier, it says, keep her out of this. I don't care. Because mothers are sometimes really stubborn. And it's a good example. Because I said to her, stop worrying about me. And she tried to avoid this. So she started talking. I said, and then she started asking questions, you know, that's a good one. Asking questions to avoid taking what it has been said. And I kept saying to her, listen, I'm not even going to answer that. What I'm saying to you is stop worrying about me. It's not your job to worry about everyone. And then she said, well, okay, I heard it. That's how it is probably with you, right? At a certain point, you say, okay, now I've heard it. And when I realize that a person is constantly on my back and annoying me with things, you know, that sounds very bad, but sometimes it just is like this, you know? I don't want people to worry over me because it puts me into a very tight jacket, which I don't want to be in. Yeah, they're constantly fussing. You leave the house and they look after you like, oh, are you going to be all right? Are you going to come back? Stop worrying. What's the deal with it? You know, if I leave and die, you can't change that. That's just how it is. But you can change how you would deal with it. Right? So if I would go now and you come back and everybody's dead, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill yourself as well? Or are you going to say, that's a challenge to stay in love anyway, right? You know, your wife cheated on you, your best friend, with your best friend, what are you going to do? Well, you're going to sit down, you're going to feel how you feel about this. What do you want to do about it? And depending on what kind of a person you are, you're either going to say, fuck you, you know, enjoy your life, and you're gonna leave. Or you're going to try to talk this out. The way I see it, you know, so the question is, do you love your wife enough to tell your best mate to fuck off? And you acknowledge that you could have loved your wife more. And the reason she cheated on you was because you stopped giving her love. Now that's a tough one, right? Can you forgive someone for having slept with someone else? Yeah, let's just hope we never have to face that. But it might be, right? Well, what you can say is, well, you're not my property, right? And what does it mean to me if you sleep with another person? I just think it's dishonest. And I don't like dishonest people or cowards. You know, I like people that say, if you're in a relationship with me, and you say you love me, and then you go and have sex with my supposed best friend, which I don't have because I am my own best friend. I have people I spend time with and that I am somehow friendly towards, as long as they're friendly towards me. But generally, yeah, I don't really like the word friend because it implies something. It implies a certain kind of relationship that I have never really had with anyone. You know, it's like a close, really close, emotional, you know, I'm in love with another man or with another woman, but I'm not. You know, I'm in love myself. I am in love. Because I work to be in there. Because I cleanse myself adequately a lot. A lot. So that love can flow out of me into my art. Because I wanted to share. But if you want to share and you've got nothing to give, then what are you going to share? So I am in love, alone in my room. It's a strange thing, isn't it? Because people always say, I'm in love with you. But who's you when you're alone in your room? Who is the other person when you're alone in your room? Well, it's you then. So you have to learn to love yourself, to be your own best friend. And that means you start taking responsibility of how you feel. Because if you can take care of your friends, or worry about your parents or your children, well, you can do the same about you. Maybe you start worrying about yourself some more. Because a lot of people, they worry about others and then they don't help themselves. But the best thing you can do to help others is to help yourself. And once you've helped yourself enough, you show them. Because now you know how to help yourself. That's what I did. You know, I was on the verge of killing myself. And then you either kill yourself or you start living. And then I said, yeah, I'm a fighter. What would I go and kill myself for? So I'll just start living now. And then you start living. And then you take everything you get. Whatever feeling, you know, do this. All right, I'm going to do it. Tell that person to never call you again. Okay. But then you also make sure, right? If you really love someone, you make sure to reach out to them again. So I don't know, in some cases, maybe I've really screwed up. Maybe my wife is never going to talk to me again. But for me, she will always be my wife. But I don't know, right? I can't see everything because there's a lot of fear involved in this. So there may be things that I don't know, that she has done, that she feels bad about. And a part of me would really like her to know, yeah, you can tell me everything, which is true. But I certainly wish it weren't so, right? I wish some things wouldn't have happened. But if they have happened, then I have to deal with it, right? And I still think I wish it wouldn't have happened. Because I wish I would live with people who are true. I wish I would live with people who know what they're doing. And who know how to, right? Just be strong and say, hey, I love that man. And no matter what he does, I'm always going to love him. And I'm never going to replace him with somebody else. Because that's what happens when you cheat on someone and have sex with someone else. And so every time I talk about this, and then I come into my forgiving nature and I say, yeah, you know, if my wife would cheat on me, yeah, I would forgive her. But to be honest, it feels a bit phony. So these kind of thoughts can really torture you when you're in my position and you are married or really in love and you believe you have found your wife, or you know you have found your wife because you want her to be your wife. And you're in my position, then you're very vulnerable. And it depends, of course, for you, what's your position, right? What's very important to you, actually. And what do you deny yourself all the time? The freedom to be alone sometimes, maybe. So to me, it's like torture to not really know where I stand with her. But I'm just trying to do my best, right? You know, I'm just trying to always get back into love so that I can open a space for her to be in love with me. Because that's how relationships work much better. If you simply hold the space of love for your partner to be in. But what I see in a lot of people is they are in a relationship and then they want always the other person to open the space of love. But the person can't maintain it because they're depending on each other, and that doesn't work. One person has to maintain the space of love. You know, a lot of people, it's like women, some women, they get into a relationship with a man. And then they think, yeah, I'm a really strong woman, but I want to be weak. I'm a really strong woman, but, you know, I want to be weak. I'm so strong, but I want my husband to be strong. So I cannot love him because he's weak. Because they think that if I would love that man and be with that man, it would make them look weak. So they're worried about how they look like. I want a strong man so that I can be the weak woman like other women. But if you're a strong woman and you feel love for a man, then why don't you just go there and love him? Like, love him as much as you can. And if you don't know what that means, well, then figure it out. You know, I first had to learn how to love. It's hard. It's like learning how to cycle. It's like learning how to walk. you learn how to love. And you start with yourself because you're the best teacher. And then you start with the people that you have in your surroundings that you feel like you hate them. But you learn to love them from a distance. Because when you get too close to them and you try to love them, you just merge into each other. That's why, if I have friends or people, I keep them at a distance because I can love them better from there. But my wife, I want to love real close, right? She's the only one, and my children. I want to love them real close. Yeah, but, some guy, I don't need to love you real close. I don't need to hold hands and look into your eyes. I don't need to do that. That only men do that who cannot hold their own weight. Do you think a shaman or the chief of a village sits around, holding hands? Some men do that. They sit opposite each other and then they put one hand on the knee and the other on the knee, and then they sit in deep conversation and look each other in the eye. It sounds a bit gay to me. I don't want to judge that too much, but I've already did. But to me, I judge it in a way that I say, well, that ain't for me. I would never do this because I'd rather sit here alone and do crochet. Well, what do you need the camera for then? Well, to show you that it's possible. Because I also do these things alone. And the reason I'm showing you that I'm doing these things alone is because, I actually know how to crochet. But it's very hard to sit here and crochet while talking. And it's also very hard to crochet while watching a movie or listening to something. So the best way is to crochet in silence and then see what kind of things come up. And what you're actually doing, you're crocheting through your emotions. You're crocheting, this is spiritual work, crochet. It's a creative process. And just as doing art, this deals with emotions. Because that's what creativity draws from. Every time you are creative, your emotions are involved. And that's what people have to understand, that when you do art, you don't control it. You don't make an image that you think you want to make now. You make an image that wants to reveal itself, something that wants to show itself. Okay, now I have a purpose, I have a certain shape, and I'm just going to create that. And sometimes this is how pottery works, right? You have a certain shape and then you allow your mind to bring it out by directing your hands or something, whatever. This is done now. I'm done talking to you. I think I've said a lot of things. If you still don't understand where there's a beeping sound in your ear, well, then you have something to figure out, right? So, what are you trying to avoid hearing?